Press.
Just to remind your delegates that the rules and the process apply for this hybrid sitting. But before we proceed, I would like to make the following announcements. That the hybrid sitting constitutes a sitting of the National Council of Provinces, as members know. That delegates in the hybrid sitting enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Council of Provinces. That for the purpose of the quorum, all delegates who are logged onto the virtual platform shall be considered present. That delegates must switch on their videos if they want to speak, and that delegates should ensure that the microphones on their gadgets are muted and must always remain muted. That all delegates in the chamber must connect to the virtual platform, as well as insert their cards to register on the chamber system. That delegates who are physically in the chamber must use the floor microphones. That all delegates may participate in the discussion through the chat room, and note that the interpretation facility is active. To also note that permanent delegates, members of the executive, special delegates, and SALGA representatives are requested to ensure that the interpretation facility on their gadgets are properly activated to facilitate access to the interpretation services. Honorable members and delegates, in accordance with Rule 2291, there will be no notices of motions or motions without notice. We will then proceed to the questions, but before doing so, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome the Deputy President. Further, I would like to remind delegates that in terms of Rule 229 of the Council rules, the time for reply by the Deputy President to a question is 5 minutes. That only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question. That a member who has asked the initial question will be the first to be afforded an opportunity to ask a supplementary question. That the time for asking supplementary question is 2 minutes, as members know. That the time for reply to supplementary questions is 4 minutes, and that supplementary question must emanate from the initial question. But before we proceed, honorable members, we have in the gallery today guests and fellow compatriots from the African continent, specifically from the Sahrawi Democratic Arab Republic. His Excellency, the leader of the delegation, Bram Gali, who's visiting us today. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, President of Sahrawi Republic, the Democratic Arab Republic, Bram Gali, and your esteemed delegation, fellow presiding officers and delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great and a rare honor to acknowledge the President of the Sahrawi Democratic Arab Republic, His Excellency, Mr. Bram Gali, and his delegation this afternoon in the gallery of the National Council of Provinces. As members are aware, President Ramaphosa invited President Ibrahim Gali of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic to pay a working visit to South Africa. The visit is intended to reaffirm our continued solidarity with the people of Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic in their continued struggle for self-determination. Today, President Gali is briefing the members of the National Assembly, led by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on International Relations and Cooperation, Mr. Supra Mahmapilu, on current developments in Western Sahara. In welcoming President Gali to South Africa on Tuesday this week, the President of the Republic, His Excellency, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, noted that the President Gali's visit is a reunion of comrades who share common views and interests and who together seek to advance the struggle for freedom, self-determination, and territorial integrity. And that South Africa stands by its principled position on the right of self-determination for Sahrawi people as enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations and the Constitutive Act of the African Union. Having emerged from a past characterized by oppression and discrimination on the basis of race, ourselves as South Africans have pledged to, one, heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. To lay the foundation for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by law. To improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. And fourthly, to build a united democratic South Africa able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. As a nation, we remain committed to the achievement of these aspirations on which our constitution is anchored. It is in this context that we support the view expressed by our own president this week that the decolonization of Western Sahara is essential to the achievement of the Africa we want, and that we must intensify international pressure so that the long-delayed referendum on the self-determination of peoples of Western Sahara is held. It has always been our view that the international community and the United Nations in particular should assume their legal and moral responsibility on granting respect to the inalienable right for self-determination of the people of Western Sahara. With these few words, I welcome His Excellency, President Gali, and his esteemed delegation to the National Council of Provinces and to the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa. Thank you very much. With these few words, we salute you. Thank you very much. Honorable members, if you allow me, we'll now move on to the questions. These questions are questions to the Deputy President, as honorable members are aware. The first question is a question on short-term power supply guarantee. This question is from Honorable Mkiva and is directed to the Deputy President. I now ask the Deputy President to respond. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Allow me also to convey our greetings to His Excellency, the President of Sahrawi. We feel honored by his presence in our country. Coming back to the question, Honorable Chairperson, as government, we are cognizant of the negative impact of load shedding on our country's economy and the inconvenience and hardship that it has caused the entire country. As a result, government has been working with the energy sector to remove a cap on private generators, increase the number of requests for proposal issued to the private sector, and contract for more megawatts from existing independent power producers. Since its revival in 2018, the Renewable Energy Program has connected almost 2,000 megawatts of solar and wind energy to the national grid, courtesy of bid window 4. Bid window 5 will contribute 2,600 megawatts by 2024, and bid window 6 will procure some odd 5,200 megawatts of wind and solar. Government has also created a regulatory environment that is conducive to opening up the market for alternative power generation. For instance, regulatory authorities have relaxed the licensing thresholds for generation projects from 1 megawatt to 100 megawatts. This means that power plants with a capacity of less than 100 megawatts can supply electricity to a wide range of users, like businesses and homes. Updated regulations allow municipalities also to produce power independently. Eskom will also buy surplus power from existing producers, like your mines, your factories, malls, and other private generators. Apart from the external but associated factors we have outlined above, Eskom itself as a business entity has been making adjustments, and to date, the following interventions have been implemented. Eskom is aggressively maintaining its power station fleet. Maintenance budgets have increased to improve operational reliability, and bureaucratic guidelines have been relaxed. Eskom is embarking on a significant recruitment drive to employ highly competent technicians, including former plant managers, engineers, and so forth. Eskom has proposed adding an additional 8,000 megawatts of clean energy projects to the grid over the next 2 to 5 years. Government is also considering various changes that will speed up the acquisition of independent power producers and reduce further red tapes. When all these necessary tasks have been done, an announcement will be made about this. To address the demands, Eskom has proposed building almost 8,000 kilometers of transmission lines over the next 10 years. Eskom has proposed financing and regulatory support for land and servitude purchases as part of our just energy transition. Eskom has proposed a holistic approach on decarbonization and environmental compliance by accelerating the retirement of our aging and unreliable coal-fired power plants. Contracts with 6 independent power producers have been concluded this year. An additional 2 projects are expected to be concluded before December 2022. Eskom will purchase power from independent power producers and provide it to the consumers. Since the announcement by the President on July the 25th, we have taken decisive action to capacitate the leadership of Eskom through appointment of the new board. As Cabinet, we are confident that the technical expertise within the board will ensure that as a country we attain the target of improving Eskom's energy availability from the current undesirable levels that are below 60%. We remain optimistic, Honorable Chairperson, that these interventions under the guidance of the new board will yield positive results that will lower and eventually end the current challenge of load shedding. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The first supplementary question will come from Honorable Mukiva.
Manibulele Mpexeshi walendlu ibaluleke kangaka ngithathe lithuba ndibulise kuye usekela mongameli namalungu endlu. Sekela mongameli masibulele into yokubana qho sikubiza kulendlu awuphozisi maseko uyeza usabele xa sibuza imibuzo uyaphendula xa sikubiza uyasabela ndivumele nditsho into yokubana ungumabuzwa asabele. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President. For me, your response demonstrates the respect the ANC-led government attach to principles and practices of corporate governments, which govern the relationship between government as a shareholder, the Eskom board, and management. This is important for the effective management and transformation of Eskom, where roles are not conflated and confused, and there is no interference in the operations and management of Eskom for political expediency. I also wish to appreciate and welcome the appointment of the new Eskom board, which has overall been publicly applauded for its representation of relevant and diverse skills required for taking Eskom into new heights. My question, Honorable President, Deputy President, is whether there are plans by the government to assist the Eskom board to attract more relevant skills and address the challenges as mentioned. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mukiva. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and thanks to the Honorable Member for the question. I think the Eskom board already has submitted a list of skills that adapt to be very scarce skills in the country, so that this list can be circulated in the Department of Home Affairs, so that anyone who's coming into the country or recruited to come into the country under the pretext of shortage of skills will then be appointed on the basis of the preferred and identified skills that the country is in shortage of. So yes, we are in a process of assisting the board in whatever way we can do it to ensure that all the relevant necessary skills that are needed by our energy generation entity, all those skills can be acquired with the assistance of government. But we are confident that the board is up to the task, and I'm sure their presence will bring the necessary changes that will end the current situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The second supplementary question comes from Honorable Labuschagne.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan is quite explicit in including energy security as one of its top priorities. It also breaks up the reconstruction and recovery into 3 phases, the first being engage and preserve, which talks to macroeconomic interventions and specifically states that its intention is about saving distressed households, firms, and jobs. Not only does load shedding do quite the opposite, but the proposed tariff increases from Eskom, which essentially shift the financial burden of Eskom's historical bad decisions onto the already stretched man in the street. Deputy President, do you think that most households can afford a 30% increase in the cost of electricity?
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Like I've said before, that as government, we are aware of the negative impact that load shedding is bringing to the country and the hardship that our people are facing. The rising cost of electricity definitely will impact negatively on the lives of our people, impacting negatively on livelihoods, and making more or less everything to be more expensive. It is a situation that would want to correct, and I'm sure we are going to stabilize the generation of electricity. In the short run, I think we'll be able to lower the energy prices by allowing more and more generation, more players in the space of generation, creating the necessary competition, not allowing Eskom as a monopoly to dictate the price. So I'm sure the route that we're taking as a country by allowing more independent producers that can produce energy and sell energy, that will create a very competitive environment in the energy generation and this, the sale of electricity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll then proceed to the third supplementary question from the EFF. Aplenny.
Thank you, Chairperson of the Council. It's Mokause. Deputy President, your responses for us as the economic freedom fighters, clearly your responses do not demonstrate commitment. It clearly shows that your government do not have plans to get South Africans out of this crisis of darkness. Having said so, Deputy President, a large number of small business owners cannot afford to buy generators to keep their lights on during the never-ending Eskom blackouts. And for them, 4 hours a day without electricity poses a serious financial challenge. Do the intervention that you just spoke about, President, refers to includes assistance with blackouts, plans for electricity supply? Are there such plans, tangible plans? If there are there any alternative power supplies as well, like your solar energy, which have been taken into account? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and thanks to the Honorable Member for the question. As stated before, the plans that has been put forward by the President is trying very hard to respond to the situation that we're faced with. And we are very aware about the hardship that has been caused by this situation to small businesses, to households, to everyone in the country. Now, the plan constitutes a number of interventions. We are going to speed up our build program. Firstly, Medupi and Gusile, so that they come into operation, they come into service. That we think is a low-hanging fruit. We're going to increase our maintenance of the current fleet of our power stations. Now, that will mean additional resources for maintenance, which has been done. we have allowed businesses to generate energy. That Section 2 of the Electricity Generation Act, which has allowed embedded generation from 1 megawatt to 100 megawatts. It's a step in the right direction, allowing the private sector also to enter the space of generation. And as we speak now, these private sector companies that are generating energy, they have almost upped their scale to almost 197 megawatts, which some of the megawatts are then sold to Eskom. All the bid windows that we have instituted, right from bid window 4, that has contributed almost 2,000 megawatts, bid window 5, that will contribute probably 2,600, and bid window 6, that will contribute 5,200. Now, all these interventions, when they come into place, they would really change the situation. We said we're going to reduce the red tape. The process which independent power producers follow to apply for them to construct their own power plants, that process must be shortened by probably attending to the process that is followed in the application of environmental impact assessment that takes almost a year, even more than a year at times. This is going to be shortened so that all those who are interested in generation projects can be assisted so that they construct their projects in a shorter space of time available. We've also said that we're going to allow the board to recruit the relevant skills that are required right at the plant level to manage our stations, and that has been actioned. We're hoping that the current board will do everything necessary to stabilize the situation in this public entity, because this board, we believe, it possesses all the necessary expertise that is needed in a board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The last supplementary question comes from FF Plus, Honorable Detroit.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Deputy President, Chapter 2 of the Bill of Rights is clear when it states in Section 27(1)(b) that everyone has the right to water. Deputy President, I'm on record requesting government to ensure that water reticulation plants, water pump stations, reservoirs, booster pumps in municipal areas and metros are exempted from load shedding. Since the rolling blackouts and the load shedding results in water shortages, low levels in reservoirs, and this results in protest action and is not conducive for social cohesion. The subject line in the initial question is short-term power supply guarantee. Deputy President, have you considered ensuring short-term power supply guarantee to the water supply division of municipalities during power interruptions that has a negative long-term effect on economies, the communities, and if not, why not, for the relevant reasons? Thank you, Deputy President.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and thanks to the Honorable Member, the question. I must say, however, that all services that we render as government are very essential. And acknowledge the fact that the disruption that is caused by this load shedding is not boding well for the country. And we have repeated that, and we have apologized for this situation. Now, it will be very difficult to select any service Because, for instance, a hospital presents a very essential service. A police station presents a very essential service. All services that are assisted by electricity, they are very important. So we're faced with a situation where households can't cook, households can't have water. It's a very undesirable situation, I must say. And I hope that all the interventions that we have put in place will, in the shortest space of time, try and address the situation. I'm saying to the honorable member, yes, I understand the effect that is caused by this load shedding on water supply. We're trying very hard to say, let's try and save life by ensuring that all hospitals and clinics in the country are avoided from this situation of load shedding. And that probably is working. And I'm not very sure with all other services whether we can be able to include all of them. Because the energy availability as we speak now is less than 60%. We're trying to rebuild to come above 75%, where we could cover all essential services. So yes, it's a very unfortunate situation, which we are hoping that in a shorter space of time, it's going to be addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll now move on to question 20. This question is on protection of Eskom infrastructure. The question was asked by Honorable Ryder and is directed to the Deputy President. Deputy President.
Thank you once more, Honorable Chairperson. Eskom has adopted an integrated security approach in partnership with law enforcement agencies to address criminal activities, specifically relating to critical infrastructure that is enabling the organization to generate, transmit, and distribute energy. In order to do this, Eskom keeps an eye on hotspots areas every day. It uses these patterns to keep an eye on its security and send positive early warnings to different parts of the business. Eskom has taken the following steps along with the government to protect our vital electricity infrastructure. Joint Operations Center located at Eskom Megawatt Park has brought in added support from specialized SAPS units, Directorate of Priority Crime Investigation, as well as other specialized units, such as Provincial Essential Infrastructure Task Teams, and National Security Command Council at the National Intelligence Coordinating Committee. All these are also brought up and are kept up to date on infrastructure crimes and the trends. South African Revenue Services, the Special Investigating Units, South African Police Service, the Department of Home Affairs, and National Prosecuting Authority, mining houses. At times they work together on high priority projects. Eskom has also reported that cases handled by SAPS are being tracked on a regular basis. Crime reporting mechanism and whistleblowers reporting systems are in place as early warning systems. Eskom has analyzed all key national key point sites and is installing smart technologies and generation power stations. Helicopters and drones are utilized in isolated areas where criminal networks still target infrastructure. While protecting critical infrastructure, regulatory and legislative changes should address the scrap metal industry and non-ferrous metal demand. The research results of a study commissioned by the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition were presented to government for consideration, and subsequently the draft policy proposals were gazetted for public comments in June this year. Before the year end, I think Cabinet will consider the approval of this draft policy and proposal. Our work in protecting critical infrastructure has not been limited to Eskom. We are taking lessons from our response to Eskom and replicating it across other critical infrastructure. This fits with making sure that all our efforts to grow the economy are long-lasting. Honorable members can rest assured that infrastructure crimes and their effects are getting more attention to bring justice to all those who are offenders. But we want to call upon all our communities also to play their parts by partnering with government and protecting all water, electricity, roads, school infrastructure that is located within their localities. As we collectively do this, we'll ensure and guarantee the accessibility of services for our children and for future generations. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy President. The first supplementary question comes from Honorable Ryder.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Ryder is in a meeting. Can Honorable Kingsall Chabalala take Honorable Ryder's question? Thank you.
Honorable Chabalala.
Deputy President, an issue facing many residents right now is the slow replacement of damaged and faulty transformers. In many areas across the country, for example, in my constituency in Mfuleni, replacement can take up to 5 years, and residents are told to pay or sign an acknowledgement of debt forms for their own transformers. Deputy President, will you commit to instructing Eskom to adhere to a prompt turnaround time of no more than 7 days and pay for their own assets instead of extorting money from our people desperate for services? Thank you.
Right, please. Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I think the honorable member is correct to say that the turnaround time at times is a bit long, caused by a variety of factors on the side of Eskom. In one instance, Eskom replaced a generator, and in 2 weeks, that generator was stolen. And they had to come back and replace that generator. But before replacing that generator, some security measures were supposed to be put in place. And that took a bit long because it was not going to be helpful to replace the generator only to be stolen again. But now that all our structures are in place, all these interventions, institutions have come together to ensure that we deal with vandalism, we deal with theft. Like you'll bear with me that some people have been arrested in a number of these power stations. They were stealing. That could not happen before, but because of the current plan, I think we're almost there. We are dealing with the criminals, we're matching them pound to pound, and I'm sure as government will succeed. And that will change the turnaround time of Eskom. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll move to the second supplementary question from Honorable Mamu Robela. Honorable Mamu Robela. Honorable Mamu Robela seems not to be on the platform. We'll move on to Honorable Hadebe. from the IFP. Honorable Khatebe.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President, does Eskom have the enhanced intelligence and security capacity to ward off and protect infrastructure currently, considering there is no backup to our unitary national electricity supply? What is the effectiveness of those security measures, considering the critical stage Eskom is in currently? And what is the Deputy President's position in this regard? Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Eskom does not have the required capacity in terms of the intelligence structures. That is why we've sourced the intelligence, crime intelligence structures of our South African police services. We've sourced some number of expertise units that are operating under the South African Police Service to work with Eskom. Now, we quite happy that the kind of support that we have sourced to come and help Eskom is starting to yield results. Now, like I said, we are starting to arrest people. We are starting to reverse this scourge of theft of our cables, of our water infrastructure, of our electricity infrastructure. We are reversing this scourge, and thanks to the intervention by the South African Police Service with their different units, and thanks to the special investigation units that have assisted in investigating some of the priority crimes in terms of our infrastructure, you'll notice that we've stopped the stealing of our infrastructure in Prasa, in Transnet, and on a daily basis, we are arresting those people. So our effort is not only focusing on Eskom, we're also focusing on all infrastructure related matters around the country, because the damage and the effect is equally the same. If you steal any infrastructure related to electricity and steal an infrastructure related to water, the outcome will be disruption of services. So we're doing everything in our power to stop this thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The last and fourth supplementary question comes from Honorable Mutsamai.
Thank you, Chairperson. Ke a leboga Motlata Tautona. Mo kgweding e fetileng Tautona Cyril Ramaphosa o ne a kgaola leeto la gagwe kwa Moseja go tla go semagana le tlhakantshuke ya kgaogo ya motlakase mo gae ka go tshwara kopano ya kabinete mo puisanong le cabinet e Tautona a neng a le modulasetulo wa yona. Ke tshwetso dife tse tserweng go rarabolola tlhakatlhakanyo ya kgaogo ya motlakase le tiriso ya mafaratlhatlha a sa direng a motlakase? Ke a leboga Motlata Tautona.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mutsamai. Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I think the intervention that the president brought in the whole challenge that we face as a country, it was very important because that intervention brought a plan after a thorough consultation with all relevant role players. The president consulted widely and at the end of the day presented a plan. Now, this plan seeks to put all our efforts together to ensure that we work together and attend to this problem of load shedding. This plan takes into consideration our maintenance of our infrastructure. It takes into consideration our built environment in this power generation infrastructure. It takes into consideration the role of business in alleviating the shortage of power. It takes into consideration all legislations that needs to be attended to in order to speed up processes that will help us end load shedding. And it also speaks to the skills that are required that will enable us to deal with load shedding. And finally, it also speaks to leadership that is needed at the helm of our power utility. That is why finally a board was appointed. Now, this is a new board with all the necessary expertise. And I'm sure if we give this board an opportunity, this board will turn the situation around. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
On a point of order,
Yeah. What's the point of order, Mkaus?
I do not understand what the Deputy President was on about. The question that was asked, he did not respond to the question. He spoke about something else. The question of Honorable Motsamai was not responded to. And I'm pleading now to yourself.
But that's unfortunately not
Not what? The question was not answered. The question was not answered.
We will move on. We'll move on to the next question.
Chairperson of the council.
The next question is
Chairperson.
question 21.
Chairperson of the council.
I think we have a problem.
Honorable Mutsamai was not responding.
You can't behave the way you are doing now.
You cannot put a blame on us if Parliament did not arrange.
If you insist, I'll switch you off. Thank you very much.
Parliament did not put interpretation. It is not our fault.
Question 21 is a question on communal land administration and tenure reform summit. This question is from BB and is directed to the Deputy President. Deputy President,
Point of order, Chairperson.
Yeah, what's the point of order, Nana?
Chairperson, I'm rising on a point of order. I am a bit concerned that Honorable Makauso was actually cut short whilst she was speaking, and you had not given that instruction. I'm worried when staff can willy-nilly cut off members of parliament without instruction, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's noted. It shouldn't happen that way. It's noted, but we're moving on.
Point of order, Chair.
What's the point of order, Mr.
Chairperson, I'm wondering if I ask a question in my own language and it's so difficult for the Deputy President to answer my questions. Usually when I try to ask a Deputy President questions, he behaves the way he behaves. He don't answer my questions. Sometimes the Deputy President will simply say he don't understand the language. Today, he cannot even answer my questions. So I don't know why must I ask a question and he don't have interpreter next to him. Can you please reserve my question because he didn't answer my question?
No, won't do that, Mr. What we'll do is to note the point that we are raising, and we'll try and find as an appropriate way of managing it going forward. But of course, I'm also, I think it's also important for me just to say to you, you can't raise past issues and link them to the debate and discussions taking place in response to questions today. Not unless, of course, there's a very legitimate point that you make. And I would also say that if you want to raise point of orders, let's please raise them as such, legitimate point of orders, and clarify them very, very carefully so that there's no confusion on this matter. Thank you very much. We'll proceed to the next question. Question
Okay.
21.
Chairperson,
On communal land administration and tenure reform.
Chairperson,
From BB to Deputy President. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Don't do that.
And I respect the ruling on the last matter. But I wish to say, Chairperson, that I'll be happy to receive the question and probably offer a written reply. The member should really appreciate that he spoke on in a language that I could not really understand. There was an interpretation, and I thought I understood the question. And if the feeling is that I've not answered the question, I'm prepared to take an extra mile to try and answer the question through a written response. That's what I can offer, Chairperson, through your guidance.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Indeed, in May this year, the government held the Communal Land Administration and Tenure Summit. This was the culmination of years of work by government and a wide range of stakeholders from different parts of society, especially those from the institutions of traditional and quiescent leadership. The highlights of the summit must be understood in the context of the ongoing program of land reform in South Africa, whose aim is to ensure equitable access to land for all of us, as stated in our Constitution, in particular, Chapter 2, Section 25. The summit resolutions included, among other things, the following: making laws about communal land ownership that define the different ways people can own land in both rural and urban areas. Introduction of legislation and other measures to protect communal land from being bonded, alienated, lost, or sequestrated by financial institutions and other developers. Government should empower traditional council to establish or use legally recognized communal land administration structures and support them to successfully administer land under their jurisdiction. This encompasses institutional, budgetary, staff, and conflict resolution mechanisms and training. The outcomes also brought to light different points of view and new issues that will need more attention when policies and laws are made about land administration and tenure reforms in communal areas. The Interministerial Committee on Land Reform and Agriculture has also sent a team of deputy ministers that will further consult our kings and queens on the outcome of the summit. Where there is not complete agreement, more consultation will be held, as we're doing it, visiting all provinces, meeting with traditional leaders. We're further consolidating our consultation. Under the leadership of the Deputy President, the task team raised matters that are of concern to traditional and Khoisan leaders. And we've also reached out to them to allow them space to talk. During these meetings, we also discussed issues that came up, like I said, from the summit, especially issues of Khoisan leaders. Their recognition also was raised sharply. In terms of implementing this work, draft policies are already being developed by the Department of Agriculture and Land Reform and Rural Development in response to the review of communal property associations, following a number of consultations by the department with various provinces under the leadership of the Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. While the outcome of the summit are being processed through the Interministerial Committee on Agriculture and Land Reform, other related matters have been raised during our engagement with traditional and Khoisan leaders, which will be submitted to Cabinet in line with government processes for consideration. These are matters that affect our traditional leaders and Khoisan leaders respectively. This outcome will subsequently be communicated again to all traditional and Khoisan leaders after.
I know, Deputy President, that the question that you are dealing with is indeed very, very important. But
Yes.
we think, I think we're running out of time.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
find a way of concluding.
I've concluded, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The first supplementary question will come from Honorable BB.
Angibonge isihlalo. Ngibingelele usekela mongameli nosotswepho omkhulu nozakwethu abala endlini. Ngiyabonga ngokuthi ukwazile ukuthi uphendule umbuzo wami noma umude. Kodwa futhi lo mbuzo lo ngiyazi ukuthi ubuziwe kwiPhalamende elikhulu wawuphendula. Ngakho yiko nguwuphinda futhi kuleli Phalamende lethu NCOP ukuze baqonde bazi kahle ukuthi uhulumeni wethu esiwuholayo siyaconsulta bakwethu. Asenzi nje izinto thina sodwa. Senze into kuthiwa ama-summit. Into engakazi ziyenzeke kudala. Now ngizoyihumusha umbuzo wami emongameli. Sekela mongameli, there are issues which consensus was reached at the summit of others where more consultation is still continuing. My question, Sekela mongameli, what are the timeframes for the implementations on the issues where consultation is still continuing? And also, what are the timeframes for to conclude consultations and start to implement? Ngiyabonga sekela mongameli wami ohlukaniphekile kanye nosihlalo.
Thank you very much, BB. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. All the issues that were canvassed in the summit, divergent views came out, areas of agreement, areas of disagreement, and we took the process further on. In our consultation with traditional and Khoisan leaders in different provinces, in an attempt to resolve whatever was not really agreed upon in the summit. Now, where we are at the moment, I think we've reached a point where we think we can now put our submission with the last visit that was made in the Eastern Cape. We can now present a consolidated view of issues where there's consensus, where there's no consensus. And our proposed way forward. Our proposed way forward is that all the issues in different communities, the attitude is not the same. Some feel that land can be held by traditional councils. Some feel that land should be held by communities themselves. Some feel that land can be held by kings. Now, there is no one size fits all. So this is what we're going to present to Cabinet so that we find alternative ways of resolving this matter and conclude it once and for all for the sake of our people living in communal areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David President. The second supplementary question comes from the brain. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. What
Thank you, Chair.
English, or translation, I have the other languages. I don't know with the others, but mine, the Tonga one is not here, the translation.
Okay.
Can you please assist on that one, Chair?
Thank you very much. We'll ask the table to look at that. I'm sure the point is noted. They did say that at the beginning, the table did indicate at the beginning of the sitting that there's a slight problem with Afrikaans, not with the other languages. So if the table can look at that, please.
Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll proceed.
Chair.
Hello?
Yes, it's myself.
Who's speaking?
It's the one that you unmuted wrongfully so.
Okay.
Chairperson, I'm rising on a point of order. When we are here as the EFF to ask questions, we need to be answered properly. We're not going to be told that questions are going to be sent back, replies are going to be sent back through written replies. The Deputy President is here to answer questions. And there's absolutely no point for you to protect him the way you are doing. It is our constitutional right to ask him questions.
Also, I'm very worried as the...
You can't be worried. Worried about what? I'm a member of Parliament. I've got a right to speak in this house.
About your
anger.
anger.
Right to speak.
And disruptive energy.
I'm not disrupting anything. Don't protect ANC deployees on our account. You even let staff to mute me.
Can I ask you can I ask the table to please ensure that Honorable Mkause will not speak until as and when she's requested to, she's given permission to do so.
I'm going to make sure that next time you don't sit on that chair. I can promise you that.
For now, Honorable Mkause, I'm not allowing you to speak.
Why are we not answered in the house?
I'm not allowing you to speak. We'll proceed. We'll proceed to the question. The supplementary question from the brain.
Point of order,
the brain. Please.
Point of order, Chair.
I've been raising my hand.
Yeah. Let's start with you, Chief.
Chairperson, I'm standing because of the language that is used in the House by the previous speaker against the chairperson of the council. The previous speaker was Honorable Mukause. Now, if we allow ourselves to use such a language that does not leave presiding officers with an option to reconcile our differences in the House, but in a manner that is really dismissive disruptive, will not help in the order in the House. I'm appealing that members must appreciate that here we are dealing with a deputy president whose deputy president have shown humility enough earlier to indicate that he's willing to take an extra mile to respond to the question of Honorable Motsamai because of failure of interpretation system.
And it's allowed.
And we accept the point made by Honorable Matebula that the House always at all material times should have full interpretation system. That one we have agreed previously. But if we are told by the table that an interpreter has fallen ill, is not there at a given time, we'll make use of the table and the skill that we have to always help the presiding officers to facilitate cordial discussions in the House. So I'm appealing, the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, on behalf of the House, deserves respect as much as he fosters that respect for members equally. So none among us have got every right to undermine the presiding officer. So I think we should do that thing. We should be circumspect of why we are here. And we should be respectful of the presiding officer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Yes, we will now proceed.
Point of order, Chair.
Yeah, what's the point of order, Mtsamai?
Chairperson, what's what we say about raise potso. Ake botsa potso o mongwe a tla e botse ka seZulu. Ha be tswe botsa ka seZulu ya ka e palo go arabiwa ka Setswana. And mo morao ha mo whip ya rona ele makauso. O mo gore a re lead a re bontshetse. So ha ke botsa question ka Setswana e be palo go arabiwa ka Setswana o ka language ngwe le ngwe whether ka seVenda whether ka seZulu whether ka Shangana. Mara na ke boditse question le na ke tshwentse ke tole ntwe e ke tletseng because na ke representa batho ba ba buang Setswana. Mara no ha ile gore wipi e ka se kgone go tlola e bua anything o tlo e kwala e botsa fela gore go baneng nna ke sa arabiwa. Me o kgone go bua seZulu ke mo utlwile.
Yes.
So ke ne ke kopa karabo.
No, all questions deserve to be answered. All questions. And I must say that often enough, it's not that the question is not answered. It's because members are unhappy with the individual members and so on are unhappy about the answer that has been provided or given. There is at one time or another a situation that arises that relates more to language interpretation, interpreters, and so on. And as Chief Whip properly pointed out, there is commitment to address all of these issues as and when they arise, and in subsequent sittings of the House. So there's a real commitment to address all issues. There's no preference of any language. We note, however, the point that we have raised, and we'll do our utmost best to ensure that it's addressed. That's the best that we can do at this point. And as I indicated earlier on, the table had indicated that there was a problem in relation to the interpretation in relation to the Afrikaans, the Afrikaans language, not Setswana or Sotho and so on. So we'll address the issues in an ongoing way, but let's be orderly. Let's assist the processes and let's make a contribution in making sure that the House function optimally. Thank you very much. We'll proceed to
Chairperson,
Honorable De Bruin.
Chairperson,
Yes,
I rise on a point of order, Chairperson.
it's a point of order.
Yes,
Okay.
Chairperson.
Let's see what the point of
My
order
point
is.
of order is, we have raised this issue about the interpretation facilities, not now, but previously also in the council. And it has not been attended to. It's unfair to have the facilities not been working in terms of the process of the house. And then the other thing is, Chairperson, we don't take any lectures from the WIP in terms of the processes here, because he can lecture the ANC members here, but not the EFF. Thank you. And then the other thing is, Chairperson, why? Chairperson, Chairperson, wait. Why is our WIP being muted? The person that is responsible for failing us here in terms of the interpretation facilities is supposed to be muted and not the WIP. Thanks.
Yes, Nyambi.
Chair, otherwise you have assisted us by the ruling party. There's a very important matter that will always keep on coming. When a judge is sitting there and was sworn in as members of the National Council of Provinces, we elect the chief whip of the council. So for any person to hear tell us that Honorable Mohai is the whip of the other party, it's wrong and it must be corrected. Honorable Mohai is the chief whip of the National Council of Provinces. So I'm rising to correct it so that it must not send a wrong message when the chief whip of the council is calling us into order, as he has correctly done. Thank you, Chair.
Yes. Honorable members, I appeal that noting everything that has been said and that has happened thus far, I appeal that we should move on to the next speaker. The second supplementary question from FFF Plus, Honorable De Bruin.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I apologize for my video. I'm having a bit of technical difficulties. Deputy President, since the Communal Land Administration and Tenure Reform Summit earlier this year, several community members and organizations have complained that the summit was badly organized and that it was a waste of the government's time and funds. And it was also stated on numerous occasions that voices of traditional leaders were prioritized over community members and other organizations. Now, Deputy President, what was the cost of this failed attempt to host the summit? And how is this cost being justified if only an elite few traditional leaders' opinions were heard and attended to? Thank you.
Yeah, Honorable De Bruin, I can see from the signs of some of the members in the House, they couldn't quite get the question. I think it has to do with the system. But can you please repeat the question again, but just do it a bit slower, a bit louder.
Okay, I'll try. Thank you, Chair. No, I was saying, since the Communal Land Administration and Tenure Reform Summit earlier this year, several community members and organizations have complained that the summit was badly organized and that it was a waste of the government's time and funds. And it was also stated on numerous occasions that the voices of traditional leaders were prioritized over community members and organizations. So my question, Deputy President, what was the cost of this failed attempt to host the summit? And how is this cost being justified if only a few elite traditional leaders' opinion were heard and attended to? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll have the Deputy President responding, but before he does so, I've just been told that the interpretation facility is active, except of course in Afrikaans. Please use the channel as indicated. The channels as indicated on your screen. It's supposed to be an indication there. For instance, channel 1 is Afrikaans, channel 2 English, channel 3 is Songa, channel 4 is Ndebele, channel 5 is Xhosa, channel 6 is Zulu, channel 7 is Sotho, channel 8 is Pedi, Setswana is channel 9, channel 10 is Swati, and channel 11 is Chivenda.
Chair, the channels are working like Eskom.
Yeah.
You're busy mentioning the channels there, but the channel 3 of Xitsonga is not working.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. No, the table will attend to the other matters. Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Well, I was part and parcel of the summit myself. And if you can ask me whether the summit was a success or not, I'll say it was a success. It was oversubscribed. There were people who were not invited but came, and we took a decision that we should allow everyone to participate. That's one. And those people that came uninvited came from communities. And we allowed them at the displeasure of all other participants who were not happy about that decision to allow them. So we had over 1,000 people participating. Now, all stakeholders had an opportunity to say their say. That is why when we came out of the summit, we said there were divergent views. And solely because of the different experiences of different communities in their traditional communities. I said some preferred that their land must be administered by traditional council. Some preferred that the land should be administered by communities themselves. Some preferred that the land should be administered by kings and queens. There were moments of altercations where people would stand up, and there were moments of unevenness in the running of the affairs of the summit. But eventually we succeeded to come out of the council, and we further consulted, went to the kings, went to all traditional leaders in the provinces where there are traditional leaders. Now we can safely say, now we know what are the views of the people. So we can now proceed and take the next step. If you ask me about the cost that we've incurred in probably convening the summit, that I cannot say outright from here, but it's information that I can source, because that was organized by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform, and Rural Development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll proceed to the third supplementary question from the EFF, Lutuli. Honorable Lutuli, yeah.
Sekela Mongameli, lo mthetho owaziwa nge-Communal Land Rights Act wachazwa njengomthetho ophambene nomthethosisekelo wezwe ngokwesinqumo senkantolo yomthethosisekelo. Isizathu-ke sabo ukuthi lo mthetho unikeza amakhosi nabaholi bendabuko amandla angaphezulu ukwedlula izakhamuzi, okwenza kube lula ukuthi abahlali bahlukumezeke endaweni zasemakhaya. Nalo mthetho we-Communal Land Tenure Policy kanye nemigomo efana no-Traditional Court Bill, u-Traditional Leadership and COSI Act, nawo futhi ukhombisa ukunikeza abaholi bendabuko amandla evile mayelana nokuphathwa komhlaba ezindaweni ezazisesabelweni ngesikhathi sobandlululo. Umbuzo ke Sekela Mongameli uthi kungani iqembu elibusayo likubona kufanele ukuthi linikeze abaholi bendabuko namakhosi amandla angaphezulu kwabahlali basezabelweni nasezindaweni zasemakhaya esikhundleni sokunikeza abahlali amandla athe ukuthi cha. Ngibonge.
Thank you very much, Honorable Luthuli. Deputy President.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Well, it's a question that was debated extensively at the summit. Sitting here, I can tell you that as government, we need to find a balancing factor. Now, the balancing factor, as much as we say traditional councils can administer the land, but in between, we must factor community boards that will sit and agree on alienating a certain piece of land for business, alienating a certain piece of land for a school, for a hospital. I mean, the direct participation of the community, it's always encouraged. So as we finalize and put down the policy, we are not going to allow traditional councils alone or traditional leaders alone to administer the land. They will do that together with their communities. We're going to set up structures that will alienate land, that will decide on the land use, that will decide on the boundaries, inner or outer boundaries. So the participation of communities is not going to be suppressed or undermined. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The last supplementary question comes from the DA, Honorable Ocamp.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President, I want to say same old, same old. I've listened to the answers that you gave today, and you're saying that you are having talks and that there's consultation. The fact of the matter is that communal land occupants still does not have ownership rights to the land they live on. This, since 28 years since the advent of democracy, they still don't own their land. Successive ANC government administrations have promised to address the issue of land ownership in communal areas, but they have all failed to follow through on their promises. The current administration's term is ending in 2024, and still communal land occupants do not have ownership rights to the land they live on. Honorable Deputy President, like the ANC's other failed policy, broad-based Black economical empowerment, which did not bring about broad-based empowerment, but only empowered a selected few within the ANC. The same happens with land distribution, where very few people actually get title deeds. Can the Deputy President take the nation into his confidence and admit that the ANC government has failed rural communities by failing to address land ownership and agricultural support in communal land areas? Will this government carry on in the footsteps of the previous ANC governments and just talk and just have consultations? Or will this government actually start to do something? So my question, Honorable Deputy President, is apart from the talks and the consultations and everything that you've mentioned today, what is this government going to do differently in order to help people living on communal land to start to own that land? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. What we are going to do differently this time is to ensure that land is transferred to the people.
Okay.
The people should determine how the land should be utilized, and the people would, in their own discretion, alienate land for different uses, whether it's business or for social amenities in their area. But above all, This land should be beneficial to the people. That means this land should be utilized productively to fight hunger and poverty. This is one move that it's aimed at utilizing this land that is lying fallow, not utilized, and is getting invaded, so that finally the people can benefit from this land. So this time it's going to happen. We've confronted the matter. We've spoken to the people that are concerned, the communities and the traditional leaders. We've heard their views, and we're at a point where now we're going to put down the policy. I've consulted widely. I've crisscrossed the country. I've met traditional leaders, almost all of them. I've met communities in the summit. And sitting here, I can say government has got a view of what these stakeholders think about their land. Yes, we're talking only about the 13% of the land. If this House wants me to give an account of the amount of land that we've restituted to people through the claims, land that we have redistributed to the people, and what is happening with that land, we can do so. But the question is about the summit, it's about the communal land. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll now move on to the question 22. And question 22 is on removal of Eskom CEO from office. This question is from Mukause, Honorable Mukause, and it's directed to the Deputy President. Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chairperson, we are pleased that for the first time in a long period, that all 13 vacancies on the Eskom board have been filled. The new non-executive directors collectively bring engineering, energy and policy, delivery, and accounting expertise. The board's mandate is based on an existing shareholder agreement. Because of the load shedding crisis and other changes in the electricity supply industry, this agreement will be looked at again. So it is up to the newly appointed board to re-evaluate the performance of Eskom chief executive and other members of the Eskom executive management. And if indeed they find that there's poor performance, I think it is up to the board to act. The board will also focus on problems with power generation and other energy-related issues like procurement, hiring of former and experienced Eskom workers, and fighting fraud and corruption. In order to show that government is still committed to good governance, we believe that a competent, experienced, and capable board has been chosen to set up a clear mechanism to hold the executives accountable. It is our expectation that the board is empowered to run the affairs of Eskom in a very diligent manner and adopt a zero tolerance for poor performance, corruption, abuse of power, dishonesty, and conflict of interest whenever such arises. This includes actions that try to undermine our efforts to build an energy utility that is financially stable and geared towards meeting its developmental imperatives. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy President. The first supplementary question will come from Honorable Mukause. Honorable Mukause.
Am I unmuted by the powers in the NCOP?
You are.
Chairperson, I do not know why you are so disruptive together with the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP and then behave like saints. You have factionalized the NCOP to a point where you chair with emotions, and that's incorrect. We are going to remove you and your party come 2024. You won't be seated there. Deputy President, the executive at Eskom have consistently demonstrated incompetence and arrogance in the way in which they have managed the energy crisis in South Africa? At what stage of load shedding would the Deputy President consider bringing in more competent Black executives to Eskom so that we may finally bring on an end to the energy crisis this country is facing? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the question. The honorable member should appreciate one thing, that we are a shareholder in the running of the affairs of the utility. And as the shareholder, we've appointed the board to administer and oversee the operations of this utility. And we should refrain as a shareholder from interfering on a daily running of the entity. Honorable member, now that we've appointed the board, I think we've done a good job. A board that is competent with all the skills. The first thing that the board must do is to evaluate all the people that are working, excluding the CEO and everyone there. Now, the board will then, after that evaluation, will be in a position to say there is a gap in the skills that are in the utility. We need these skills, we need that skills. And if the skills are not found in the country, the board will escalate that matter to the shareholder, which is government. Then government, through its processes, through the Department of Home Affairs, can advertise for such skills for people who wanting to offer these skills to come into the country, and they'll be given the necessary permits. So yes, as much as we see the challenges that are faced by Eskom as government, we should allow the board that we've appointed really to run the affairs of Eskom and not interfere as government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The second supplementary question comes from Honorable Ryder. Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Deputy President. Possibly your last question session in this House. Deputy President, if one consults industry experts and people inside and close to Eskom, the consensus is that the CEO, Mr. Andre de Ruyter, is in fact doing extremely well, in spite of the massive problems that he inherited and the continuing undermining of his attempts to turn Eskom around, including sabotage and police complicity. Now, further consultation indicates that his efforts are being undermined by, amongst others, deployed cadres of the ANC, and the turnaround has to reverse a massive drop in productivity, which has been due to the treatment of all state-owned enterprises, Eskom included, as sheltered employment for overpaid and underqualified politically connected individuals. The turnaround at Eskom is being hampered by procurement processes and conditions that make no business sense, further exacerbated by the construction mafia, which hold projects to ransom. Now, noting the arrests last week and court appearances relating to the Kusile and Modupi procurement corruption, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Deputy President, the question I have for you is, what amendments to the preferential procurement regulations is Cabinet going to make to ensure that Eskom becomes economically viable again without passing exorbitant price increases onto consumers? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and to the Honorable Member question. The matter at hand about the procurement processes within Eskom, which has contributed negatively in the stability of the organization. That matter is currently with the National Treasury to find the best way of assisting Eskom to be able to promptly respond to issues of breakages and be able to buy the necessary parts that are needed in these plants so that they can continue their maintenance program and ensure the availability of electricity. So that matter is under consideration. I must, however, dispel the mist that you are trying to present in this house, that the challenges within Eskom, it's because of cadre deployment. We have appointed a board. When we've appointed, the board is appointed Andre, the CEO. These people were given ample opportunity to run the affairs of the utility without the interference of government. I've been there. I've never seen the minister interfering. I've never seen the president interfering. We have not interfered. We have given them enough space to operate. Now, it is not for me really to try and assess the performance of the CEO. I reserve my comment. I'll allow the board as the rightful body to do that assessment and act beyond that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David President. The next question is supplementary question number 3 from Khadebe from the IFP. Khadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy Minister. Considering that a lack of performance by Eskom's Chief Executive Officer will filter down to the performance of his subordinates, I would like to know which operational measures other than sanctions are in place to keep Eskom's employees accountable when they do not reach their performance targets. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Now, we have given all the powers to the newly appointed board in terms of our shareholder agreements. The board is entitled and fit to run the utility. Like I said, the board should evaluate exactly the performance. Why load shedding? Why is these breakages? What's happening to maintenance of this power utility? And finally take a decision. If a decision says there is underperformance, they must act. They must act in a way that will bring confidence and stability to the utility. So yes, we're waiting in earnest for the board's evaluation. That will be announced very soon. And I'm sure they are also worried about the ongoing load shedding as the new board, and they will want to end it. So for them to end it, they must understand exactly what are the root causes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The last supplementary question comes from Honorable Nyambi. Honorable Nyambi.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. For me, your response demonstrates the respect the ANC-led government attached to principle and practice of corporate governance, which govern the relationship between government as the shareholder and the Eskom board and management. This is important for the effective management and transformation of Eskom, where roles are not conflated and confused, and there's no interference in the operation and management of the Eskom for political expedience. I also appreciate and welcome the appointment of the new Eskom board, as you have indicated, DP, which has overall been publicly uploaded for its representation of relevant and diversity required for taking Eskom to new heights. My question is whether there are plans by government to assist the Eskom board to attract more relevant skills and address challenges mentioned by Honorable Nkiva earlier on, Honorable Deputy President.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and thanks the follow-up question by Honorable Nyambi. Yes, already the board, within this very short space of time, they've managed to re-evaluate the list that was submitted to the minister by the executive of skills that they think are required, that are very scarce in the country, so that skills can be sourced internationally. So that list is now with the minister and it's going to be circulated to the relevant department, Home Affairs, so that the required exemptions are granted to people in possession of such skills. So yes, skills shortage is one matter that has hampered the good functioning of Eskom. And I think the current board is well geared towards addressing this matter with the assistance of the shareholder. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Deputy President. The next question is question 23. This question is on community members in tribal land. It's from CFB Smith and it's directed to the Deputy President. Honorable President, Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. During the last financial year, the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs worked to improve the well-being of traditional communities by strengthening the laws and policies that govern the institutions of traditional leadership. The government now can focus on economic development in traditional communities while standardizing support for traditional leadership across provinces. In addition to the support provided by line departments to communities on communal land, priority programs like Rural Invest, which has been developed by traditional leaders, are being championed to deliver sustainable social and economic development initiatives in rural areas. In this regard, the Interministerial Task Team on Traditional and Quiescent Leaders has been in continuous engagement with the institution of traditional leaders to source their perspective on how government should improve the lives of the people living in communal lands, among other things. To further ensure that communal land is productively utilized by beneficiaries, government is paying attention to the provision of effective post-settlement support. In this regard, through the Interministerial Committee on Land Reform and Agriculture, we are focusing on improving coordination of integrated post-settlement packages to beneficiaries of land, including finance, infrastructure, access to water resources for development. As government, we are still seized with the bigger responsibility of accelerating land reform to achieve restorative justice and social inclusion, especially for people living in traditional communities or communal land. While our land reform has encountered challenges along the way and has not exceeded our expectations, significant progress has been made in our restitution and redistribution program of land to its rightful owners in a way to restore dignity and justice to those who were dispossessed. The Department of Agriculture, Rural Development and Land Reform is currently finalizing the communal land tenure policy to address the long-standing issue of communal land administration, ownership, security of tenure of persons and communities as stated in section 25, subsection 6 of the Constitution. Municipalities in tribal land regions must include projects in their integrated development plan to release suitable and well-located agricultural land for productive use, distribute this land for human settlement, and provide beneficiaries with fencing, equipment, markets, and finances under the National Spatial Development Framework. Government programs will address service delivery concerns, land reform blockages, local economic development, and the welfare of all South Africans, whether they live in urban or tribal communities. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The first supplementary questions come from Honorable Smith. Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, considering Section 91(2) of the Constitution 1996 and the National Assembly rules, Rule 3521, Deputy President, you have a responsibility to ensure that South Africans living on tribal land own their homes by getting individual title to their properties like all other South Africans. You have a responsibility to ensure that tribal communities are handed a means to lift themselves and their children out of poverty. You have a responsibility to ensure that these communities again feel like they belong as South Africans and have their dignity back again. So, Mr. Deputy President, will you support the DA's efforts for poverty alleviation and fast-tracking land reform by transferring ownership and title deeds of residential and business properties on tribal land to all the actual owners as individuals? Or do you consider these communities as secondary citizens of this country? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Of course, that was the purpose of the Land Tenure Summit that was held. And I'm not very sure whether this is the DA's view that land must be transferred to the people that were dispossessed. I'm not very sure of that. But the fact of the matter, the summit was called solely to ensure that this process of transferring this land to the rightful owners and finally hand title deed to these people, that was the essence of the summit. And we consulted these people who are living in these areas, we consulted the traditional leaders, and now we are starting this process. And finally, everyone who's living in a communal area will eventually have a title deed. That is where we're talking about the inner boundaries that are going to be redetermined. And finally, those occupying the pieces of land in the inner boundaries will then be given a title deed. And of course, the outer boundaries that will determine the exact land that is available, that it belongs to a certain tribal community, that will be determined, and the title deed will be offered, presented to that tribal council, that this land belongs to these people, and we're going to assist these people to administer the land by creating the necessary infrastructure and structures that will administer the land on a daily basis. and present also some conflict resolution mechanism that should anything happens, conflict arise in terms of the administration of this work, there is a mechanism to resolve those conflicts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The second supplementary question comes from FF Plus, Honorable De Bruin.
Thank you, Jay. President, you have answered my question to some extent already now, but just to be clear, are there any measures for development towards the rezoning or reclassification of tribal land to make the provision for the transfership and private ownership of community members on tribal land? Thank you.
Deputy President.
I'm sorry, Honorable Chairperson. I have not heard the question.
Yes. Honorable De Bruin, we're calling on you once again to try and speak a bit.
Honorable Chair, could we
clearer.
please give the following speaker an opportunity just for Honorable Brain to get better reception? The reception is the challenge at this stage.
Yeah, let's try again, just one more time. Honorable Brain, one more time. Can you speak a bit louder, a bit slower, and speak to them to the mic?
Yes, I apologize, Chair. I'm having some technical difficulties here. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Deputy President, as you have answered my question to some extent just now, but just to make sure, are there any measures or developments towards the rezoning or reclassification of tribal land to make the provision for the transfer of ownership and private ownership of community members on tribal land? Thank you.
Deputy President, let's hope you have heard that.
No, I'm struggling, Chairperson. I'm sure if you have heard, you can help me.
Yeah. Yes, maybe let's try this other solution. Yes, please proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Deputy President, the question is, if the President is aware of any measures of developments towards the rezoning and reclassification of tribal land to make provision for the transfer of ownership and private ownership of community members on tribal land. Like Honorable De Bruin mentioned, you've partially answered that question.
Deputy President.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Yes, I've answered that question. So what is going to happen right away is that beyond this consultation process, we are now going to put policy and legislation that will enable this process to proceed. The policy will deal with the management of the land, whether it's a traditional council, whether it's a community itself, where there's no traditional council, and how best the land disposal to individuals within that community, how finally they are going to get their title deeds and the outer boundaries, how finally this land is going to be transferred to the entire tribal community or the community that is the outer boundaries. So this is going to be determined by the legislation that we're going to pass and the policies that we are going to pass. You'll be aware that different communities and different tribal settings, they prefer different options, but we're not really worried about these different options if finally the outcome is going to be the same. The outcome is finally the beneficiaries of this land should be the people in communal areas. And we've said we're going to demarcate land for production, and that's where we're going to assist, set up our integrated support, supporting those who want to till the land. so that they can till the land for their own livelihood and for business to sell their own produce. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the third supplementary question from Honorable Mudise. Honorable Mudise, and as she prepares to take a platform, I'm told and informed and advised that there's tea available. Members can just leave orderly, one person at a time or so. Honorable Mudise.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President, we will surely agree that our constitutional democracy accepts and defines the role of institution of traditional leaderships in our governance and country. Land reform and socio-economic transformation of our rural communities. I appreciate ongoing government efforts working with institutions of traditional leaderships in addressing land reform and welfare of rural communities. It shows that the government led by the ANC is working together with all stakeholders. Keep it up, the good work that we are doing. My question is, are there ongoing plans by government to mediate dispute associated with the land reforms in some of the rural communities? Honorable Deputy Chair, Honorable Deputy President, thank you very much.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The process of consultation with the traditional leaders, like I said, it has come to the point where we are reaching finality. And we are going to come out with a proposal on how to address the issues that are raised by traditional leaders. A whole range of issues pertaining their pensions, pertaining their salaries, pertaining their traditional councils, pertaining their tools of trade, and pertaining to land under their jurisdiction. So all those issues are going to be pulled together in a report with proposals. And this task team that is led by the Deputy President is going to present that report to the President for his consideration. And probably the President might want to take this matter to Cabinet so that we take a final decision on how best we want to assist traditional leaders. Now, a traditional leader in the Northwest should be assisted the same as a traditional leader in Limpopo. So we must standardize these offerings and the support that we give to traditional leaders. Now, pertaining to our land reform process, we have identified that there are traditional leaders that don't have land. But they are traditional leaders, they have a certificate. So we have taken a decision that these traditional leaders, in terms of our land reform program, must be given land. And that land is for both for human settlement, but in the main, for agricultural purposes. So that is going to be done. Now, the land that is going to be given to these traditional communities is going to be administered in the same way as the communal land, because that land is bought for the people, to be utilized by the people in order to fulfill their productive needs. So this is the approach that we're taking, and I'm sure mid-November, we're going to be presenting this report. We're going to make it well known to the country. that these are the findings and these are the recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The last supplementary question is from the EFF, Matebula. Honorable Matebula.
Nakensa Mtama Stool. Deputy President, the ruling party has on numerous occasions failed at expropriating land without compensation, setting back Black people's struggle for land repossession, and proving once more that it is not serious about transferring land back to our people. Which form of support has the Deputy President rendered to small-scale farmers living in tribal land? Nakens.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The failure of the amendment of the Constitution cannot be solely attributed to the ANC. All the parties in the National Assembly were represented, and they had different views on how best this expropriation of land should happen. But finally, parties should understand that there were people that were dispossessed of their land, and these people finally, they must be given back the land. The land should not go back to the state. This land used to belong to people. It was taken from people. So this land must be restored to the people. So I wanted to correct that. And in future, I think we might find common ground and work together and ensure that we achieve this noble goal of restoring the land that was dispossessed from the people back to the people. Concerning our small and medium enterprises that are doing farming, that are doing small businesses in rural communal areas. Now, through this exercise of putting a process to take back the land to individual title, in the process, there will be land that will be demarcated for businesses. So where small businesses are going to be operating. Now, if there are small farmers, there will be land that will be demarcated for farming, for small producers to farm there, and those producers will be assisted by government. So this process is going to happen orderly, and want to encourage our people not to leave communal places and go for the cities, because there will be enough and ample opportunities that would enable them to foster a livelihood, to improve their social well-being, and to fight hunger. Government is going to bring back their asset, which is land. They will own the land and they will produce on their land. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll now move to the last question, which is question 24. This question is on ICT services in rural communities. This question is from Honorable M. Inchabeleng, and the question is directed to the Deputy President. Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Part of the fragilities that the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed is the need for government to fast-track its program for bridging the digital divide. To this end, the government is committed to ensuring that everyone has access to information and communication technology infrastructure that will eventually improve their lives. Research done by Independent Communications Authority of South Africa in March this year shows that rural and township communities need better access to information and communication technology services. In this regard, we have made headway in the implementation of the National Broadband Policy, which aims to deliver affordable, high-quality, high-speed broadband connectivity to all South Africans. In order to advance national broadband policy, government is implementing the South African Connect program, which has been split into 2 phases. The first phase was a pilot, has been rolled out in 8 district municipalities across 7 provinces, which include Bembe, Limpopo, Garsibande, Mpumalanga, Pisla, Iseme, Northern Cape, Thabo Mfusanyana, Free State, Umgungundlovu and Umzinyathi, KwaZulu-Natal, as well as Dr. Kenneth Kaunda in the Northwest. Broadband connectivity has been offered at 970 government facilities, including schools, hospitals, and administration offices. After the first phase, Cabinet amended and approved the South African Connect program in January this year. Following that approval, the revised model is focused on the following key interventions for phase 2 of the program, which is being implemented over a period of 3 years. Now, phase 2, we want to connect 18,000 schools, 3,873 health facilities, 8,241 tribal authority offices, want to connect 15,691 government sites, including 949 libraries, 2 song centers, through the State Information Technology of South Africa. To connect underserved South African communities and households to the internet by deploying 33,400 Wi-Fi hotspots in collaboration with SMMEs and internet service providers. The 52 district municipalities will implement this program, focusing on rural and township areas. This work is significantly reduce the digital divides. The relevant ministries, including COGTA, are now planning government institution infrastructure and family and community Wi-Fi hotspots. Our government strives to ensure that geography does not really prevent people from obtaining information and using the internet, which is crucial for education, training, and economic growth in developing countries. Digital transformation, including preserving digital and network infrastructure, can empower rural and township communities to generate wealth, eliminate unemployment and poverty. We will connect even the most remote rural communities to improve their quality of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The first supplementary question comes from Honorable Nchabele. Honorable Nchabele.
Ke a leboga modula stulo ebile ke dumedisha maloko a leng gona ka mo gare ga ntlo ya parliament ya NCOP. Ke leboga gape president mo di deputy president mo karabong ya go putshwe ke botšitšewe ka gore what it means is that the government is trying very hard to close the gap created by apartheid spatial planning. Hence, the question talks to connectivity in rural areas and townships. As we all know, rural areas and townships are areas where the Black majority and African people were confined to. Deputy President, lower information communication technology is critical for both the rural and township economies and the general livelihoods of people. The response provide detailed statistics which outlines in detail programs to connect rural areas to the ICT services. This program will have to be closely and regularly monitored by NCOP select committees to ensure that there is adherence to the kwano tse di bileng gona. Now, my question is, what legal measures have been put in place to ensure that social obligations imposed on the mobile operators who recently acquired the auctioned mobile broadband spectrum as part of their license conditions are fully implemented? Are there measures put in place, Deputy President, to connect all these centers to alternative forms of energy, such as solar, to mitigate problems associated with load shedding?
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Nchabele. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The question posed by the Honorable Member is very important, that those who have been awarded this spectrum, there are conditions attached to this spectrum, so that these service providers must deliver to the rural people. Now, government will monitor the exact commitment that they've made to ensure that they deliver on the said commitments. This matter is very critical in the development of the country. We can't, as a country, say we are moving forward while we are leaving a sizable number of people behind. All those people living in rural areas are left behind in terms of information, in terms of their connectivity. Now, the development that we seek to achieve as a country will be uneven. So this matter, as government, we're attending to it, and we are now rolling out this infrastructure in the various districts of the country, the 52 districts. And I'm sure this will eventually level the playing field. Secondly, we're quite aware of the electricity disruptions. And I'm sure now that we have given our municipalities the authority to procure generation capacity, that will alleviate challenges of load shedding, especially in rural areas. But our intention is that the current load shedding challenge should not be the mainstay of the country. This, we regard it as a short-term program that must be dealt with so that everyone in the country must receive energy, reliable energy, to do their own businesses, for households, for the production of services, goods and services. Energy is very vital. So, as much as we're saying we are going to deal with the problem encountered by Eskom currently, this should be dealt with in a manner that in future, it does not come back. Load shedding, once we're done and we're through with addressing all these challenges, should be a thing of the past, should not come again. We'll have enough energy at our disposal to be able to grow the country, to grow this economy, and allow new entrances to connect to the grid. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The supplementary question comes from Honorable Matebula. Honorable Matebula.
Nakhensa nakambe Mutsama Shtul. Deputy President, noting how ICT have great potential impact in the lives of Black people in rural areas and township communities significantly, which initiative has the Deputy President taken at ensuring that access to technologies is affordable for our people? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Firstly, the honorable member will appreciate the fact that we are at the initial phase. We have piloted by rolling out this infrastructure, and I'm sure our people are paying probably more for data, which is a question that we are dealing with. But very important is to connect, is to put the necessary infrastructure in all our rural communities. Currently, we have just piloted in these 7 districts. Now we're rolling out this connectivity to all our districts. And beyond that, I think in the process, we must allow a discussion with all our service providers so that the amount of services they provide are reasonable to the consumers, especially those people who are residing in rural areas. The cost of data must be affordable to our people. It must not be a burden. Otherwise, connecting this infrastructure will be a futile exercise if this infrastructure is not going to be utilized. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The third supplementary questions from Honorable Hadebe. Hadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President, with regards to your responsibility to lead the National Human Resource Development Council and fostering collaboration between government and social partners towards addressing the shortage of skills in critical sectors of the economy, and considering that skills such as those required in ICT are critical skills, what is the Deputy President doing to ensure engagement with relevant stakeholders to address the problem that those in rural areas face with reference to access to opportunities to tap into ICT-based interventions and programs as users, as well as potential contributors to the skills pool? And what link will the Deputy President create between this mandate and ensuring that it trickles down to the anti-poverty mandates, such as the public employment programs, integrated service delivery, and enterprise development? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. In terms of our skills development in the country, I think this is a very important area of our work that has been identified by the Department of Higher Education. So there are serious programs that are being delivered in our TVET colleges, just to give our learners basic information, technology skills to be able to work with. And I'm sure over time they will improve, they will graduate and be able to proceed and acquire degrees. But basically, our TVET colleges have provided that space to get our people to acquire the necessary ICT skills. This is going to be a long process, getting our rural people, some of them that have not completed grade 12, some of them dropped out of school, but it is important for their survival, for their development, to acquire the skills so that they can effectively manipulate the skills for their own development and for their own survival. So we think the route of these TVET colleges that don't require some strict requirements and entrance requirements, and some community colleges that will require less entrance requirements, should be built all over the country, especially in rural areas where we can teach our young people these very skills so that they'll be able to manipulate and make use of the infrastructure that is deployed currently for their own small businesses and for their own production of services, goods and services, for their own livelihood and for their own development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. The last supplementary question is supposed to come from Honorable Nana. I don't know whether it's on the platform, but is presently not in the house.
Chairperson,
Yes.
I will be taking the
Okay.
question. Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Deputy President, Vision 2030 of the National Development Plan set a target of 100% of South Africans will have access to broadband services at 2.5% less of the population's average monthly income. Will you agree this was a realistic and achievable target had your government not slept on the job? 6 district municipalities from across the country, including the troubled OR Tambo in the Eastern Cape, were identified as pilot sites for SA Connect. In OR Tambo, SA Connect has failed to change people's lives and improving service delivery. The rollout of phase 1 was first announced in 2013, where 970 critical government facilities were to be provided with 10 megabytes of broadband services. And this took 9 years to achieve the 970 critical government facilities. Now in the Western Cape, 1,290 schools are now connected to broadband. 249 schools have subsidy alternatives to broadband. 752 schools have local area networks installed, with a further 553 schools with partial access installed. Fast forward to February 2022, the Minister of Communication announced during the State of the Nation debate as follows: in the next 3 years, we will connect 44,600 government sites, including schools, health facilities, libraries, to song service centers and traditional authority offices that will be connected through telecommunications operators. In the same period, we will roll out more than 33,000 community Wi-Fi locations and broadband to households. Now, Honorable Deputy President, my question is, you are as good as your last performance. Your government took 9 years to connect a mere 970 sites. Please explain to this House how your government will connect 77,600 sites in 3 years. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. And thanks to the question from the Honorable Member. The Honorable Member started by reading the National Development Plan and the target that we have set ourselves, the 2030 target. Now it's 2022. In terms of that target, I think we are remaining with 8 years to fulfill this great target. Yes, we have lost some time along the way. We moved slow at times, and at times there was no movement at all. But as a country, we cannot really destroy and kill ourselves for that lack of movement at times. Now that we have regained our momentum, I think we should appreciate that and work harder to ensure that we meet this deadline. I'm confident that through the pilot programs, phase 1, and now entering phase 2, we'll be able to increase the momentum and be able to connect all these districts. Yes, it's quite a very extensive work that will require focus and dedication from the department, working together with our districts, our provinces, to ensure that this happens and happens very quickly. I'm quite happy, of course, that some provinces like Gauteng province have taken it upon themselves to deal with the districts within their jurisdiction, help them to connect. So with the inclusion of provinces, with their resources at disposal, this can enhance the pace of the laying down of this infrastructure in different provinces. Yes, I agree with the honorable member that we have lost time, but not all is lost. We can still catch up on the time until 2030. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Honorable members, that ends the question session.